the other. Whatever the other is. The other has been the bane of my career. It would have been better if I just yeah. Well, what's one to do? You just have to respond to what happens. So in AA, and everyone is, you could do the 12 steps. Instead of drinking, you could put thinking in it, So I'm powerless over thinking, and it's made my life unmanageable. You could just use that. And usually in most recovery groups, I only know about San Francisco, but the obsession with self and the idea of self, to most people, is this idea of an ego. That's not my idea of it. Yeah, because if you ever listen to people share about ego, they say my ego, or I have an ego, or I lost an ego. I'm more interested in that sense of who has or loses an ego. To me, that's the bondage point. Yes? Yeah, so because if you have an ego, it's there, and if you lose an ego, it's there. The feeling of the one who had the ego is the same one seemingly that loses the ego. Yeah? So this whole thing of going from this to that to this to that doesn't go anywhere. Because if you feel like you got out of the ego, you also feel like you can go back into the ego. So there's no peace, there's no stabilization. But before that sense of being the one who has and loses, the sense of being the one, that to me is the self, the idea of a self. But there isn't a self, but there's selfing. Yeah, so the mental, we'll turn it on?
It's on.
Oh, it is, sorry. If you see, to me, everything is verbing. Yeah, the whole thing is verbing. And the mental state likes to put nouns in there. But to me, it's all verbing. So the activity of the mental state is in the act of being identified as a self. So it isn't like a verb it's not like the act of being identified as is the verb and then self is the noun. It's a whole verb, yeah? So the self is derived from the selfing. The self isn't selfing. The selfing implies the self, yeah? We had it here with Randy, a friend of ours, who came here last time I was at the house. And he was talking, he's heard us a lot, so he said, let's call the selfing Paul. Yeah? Pauling. So he goes, on a bad day, how much is Paul pauling? Is he pauling like 80%, 90%? If it's a good day, is he pauling 10%? So his assumption was there was a Paul that was either pauling or not pauling. But really, the Paul gets implied by the claiming of the selfing or the pauling. Yeah? Mm-hmm. But once it works, it immediately is presupposed to be before the selfing, and then it believes it's the one doing it or being done to by it. That's the whole message. Yeah? It's like watching the same film that's being narrated all day, but seeing it with a little different time lapse. Yeah? And then you'll see that which comes after, yeah, which is the idea of being the doer, it comes after the doing. Yeah? The idea of being the seer comes after the seeing. The idea of being the hearer comes after the hearing. So there's hearing, and then a mental state reacts to that hearing and implies there's a hearer. Yeah? So the hearing happens, consciousness is happening, conscious contact, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. Every one of us has been in it all day. It's the basis of our lives here, seemingly. And there's no thought of effort involved in it. You're not efforting to see, are you? Your eyes are open. If you're pointed in a certain direction, you're going to see whatever's there. And you may even say, I didn't want to see that, but you saw it first. Yes? Why? How much does that can tell you? If that which comes after says, I didn't want to see it, it obviously had no power over the seeing, because it didn't want to see what it was seeing, because it wasn't the one that was seeing, you see? So the basis is conscious contact. Yeah, if you see it, this whole magic trick, and it is a trick, is done through time. Yeah? So There's the seeing, there's the hearing, the feeling, tasting, touching. The mental state claims that and uses it to imply the seer, the hearer, the feeler, the taster, and the toucher. Yeah, that's the whole movement. Yeah, if that which comes after is implied to be before, then that which is before has to be something made into the after. So now you start looking for yourself. Yeah. So my situation, when I watch people, especially in spirituality, most of us are looking for what we are from what we're not. Yeah. The identification as what you're not predicates that you're going to be looking for what you are, which is the whole dilemma. That's why Huang Po would say you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. You can't use light to seek light. You can't use mind to seek mind. He wouldn't say that to anyone that wasn't Buddha, mind, and light. Huang Po wouldn't have said it to Steve, Mary, Jim, and Joe. Yeah? But when he looked at Jim, Mary, Steve, and Joe, he saw the Buddha. And he was attempting to get the message through the Buddha, hey, you can't use yourself to find yourself. That's it. Yeah? Because what happens if that's true and it clicks, it informs you as Paul, that's exactly what you've been doing. Because Paul, AKA, is the Buddha. Yeah? So Paul has been using the Buddha to seek the Buddha. It doesn't matter if it's a second or 40 years. It's still defined by a fault or a mistake. The same thing in recovery. It's not in the big book, Self Can't Get Out of Self. That was an observation from a lot of people in AA over time. They realized somehow that that's exactly what they were doing. They were trying to get out of self as self. And they said very simply, self can't get out of self. There was no exemptions. Yeah, it didn't say self can't get out of self, but in 1999, then it will be able to work. Yeah, it was a statement of a fundamental flaw in looking for what you are from what you're not, or trying to get out of from what you're not while you're calling it what you are. You see? The quality of this has no time in it, none whatsoever. That's why I can walk in here, and my concern was the shirts, and I lost interest in about 10 seconds. You can see how they're folded. I just fucking threw them on the table, and I didn't go to get ready or get set, because I have a sense it's always available at all times, right where I am, with no requirement necessary. So I don't need to prepare to give a talk. Preparing to give the talk would freaking infect the talk with something you don't want to get. Yeah? It's that whole thing. Our own interest is being used as the obscuring agent. As Ramana Maharshi said, the greatest mystery is reality is attempting to attain reality. How or why would reality ever want to attain reality? It must take itself to be something else. Yeah? Now it has echoes of its own nature, but those echoes have been placed into some mythical or conceptual idea, and now you are looking for reality as reality. What else could fool reality but itself? So all you can say, if that's the case, then how could this place be defined? First of all, it's not a place, it's dreaming. It's not a dream because it could have a location, dream on Oakshire. Yeah, dreaming, it's an activity. So we're in the midst of an activity, and my humble belief is there's not one point where you can act like an amphibious, pull yourself out of the dreaming, and then just start saying you're the witness of the dreaming. If this is here, you're sunk in the dreaming. This is the dreamt. Yeah? So you see, all there is dreaming. You don't, and then when the head goes, oh, so as the dreamt, I'm what's dreaming? No, that doesn't go anywhere. Then you start thinking I should wish for 50 Cadillacs and 62 Vestal Virgins and just have great new joints and everything like that. No, the message isn't to us. It's never been to you. It's never been from this you. The message is thrown over our head And I basically know how far you can reach. And I know there are gaps in your defense. So if I just keep pouring it on, we do not practice loving gaze. We don't take a huge pause every 3 minutes. You regroup. Your selfing would just fucking... You could hit self with a knockout punch. If you give it a few seconds, it's up again. What you want to do is overwhelm it so all of its little myths, one of them gets through, and then the Buddha hears the message, or what you are hears the message. And because that which we are is everywhere, I don't have to aim for it. I just have to aim away from you. Because I know if I talk to you about it, it goes freaking nowhere. But if I talk to it about you, that goes somewhere. Yeah? So this whole message isn't for you. It's never going to be for you. You're never going to get it. Ever. Ever. It's the loss of interest in getting it. It's the loss of interest that it's going to be great one day. You just lose interest in all that mythical thinking. And you know what happens? Find out. But I'll tell you something. Your new starting point will be a field of acceptance, not a fucking mental denial or avoidance. And most seeking isn't, you're not looking for a spirit, you're trying to get out of something that's bothering you. If you felt content and satisfaction, your spiritual journey would end, probably. Maybe there's 1 out of 1,000,000 that are truly spiritual adepts. Who knows? Most of us we're trying to get, just like when we got loaded, we're trying to get out of self, but we're stuck with that little dilemma. We're trying to get out of self as self. That means we have to keep trying to get out of it. There's never any stabilization of the escape because you cannot escape from an imaginary place. Nor can you escape from an imaginary place as an imaginary person. Yeah? That's what hits you. So you don't lose interest in self and then gain interest in liberation. The only thing that's interested in liberation is what you're not. But it can't entertain liberation without itself included. That's why there's no liberation. Yeah? It's liberation from the idea of that one who wants liberation. I swear, if you took a blood test of me right now, a spiritual blood test, send it to, let's say that, the lab in the Himalayas, 5,000-year-old information, they send it back. Signs of spirituality, 0.00000. Either it's been completely successful, which I say that's the case. I have no fucking interest in it whatsoever. There's no point because it's feeding the wrong mouth. If you get the message of non-duality, it's quite disarming. It's not a call to arms. It's disarming. You realize that how you seem to be cannot embrace what you already are. You'd have to make it something else to arrive at it. Yeah? So the whole point is, instead of trying to study about what you are, know what you are, have an understanding of what you are, experience what you are, you study what you're not, you know what you're not, and you're not a long-lasting, independent, separate entity. You're not the doer. You're not the thinker. You're not the feeler. Yeah? You're a thought of being the doer. You're a thought of being the feeler. You're a thought of being the thinker. Yeah? So what happened with me, recovery, simply, after years, I used to do workshops out of how it works, 4th-step workshops. And one night, and I must have read it thousands of times, but one night, things had happened or whatever were happening. I don't believe anything happens. How could that which is always happening happen? Yeah. It's in realizing what you're not that you access that which is always happening. And you know what the response to this is? You chill out. Yes? Because it's always available at all times right where you are. And if you grow in recovery, if you grow in the steps, you'll end up at a place, hopefully, that looks like this. You'll have a higher power of its own understanding, not your freaking understanding. You will allow that. You allow You allow that to dictate or to reveal to you what it is, not you building a little fence that it has to climb through or a little window that it has to fit through. Like the idea of, oh, I get a parking space at the meeting, or I have a 3-month-long relationship. Great, I didn't flip out at the picnic. No, there's a much bigger fish to fry here. Yeah? So there's a sentence in it, right on page 64. It says, and it doesn't matter if you're in recovery or not, because it's just everyone is recovering from something, yeah, in some respect. So it says, being convinced, which is a present tense verb, yeah? It's not I was convinced, or I hope I'm going to be, but being convinced, like right now, being convinced of what? That self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us. That's what you're convinced of, yeah? It doesn't take much if you're an addict, an alcoholic, or my type, because you can see all the freaking damage in your rear view mirror, and it's obvious, yes? Mm-hmm. It's obvious that any life run on your will is hardly going to be a success, because it hasn't been, yeah? So you see it, being convinced that self, manifested in various ways, has defeated us. This is the key, because he separates the two, yeah? He doesn't say, being convinced that Mary, Jim, Paul, and the millions of addicts and alcoholics' names manifested in all these ways defeated Jim, Mary, Sue. No. There's self, and then there's all of us. So there's some foreign installment, some possessive quality, some, I call it a parasitical movement. There's something going on that takes us over and manifests and defeats us by its manifestations, and yet, when you meet it in your life, you call it me. You meet the thief in your own house, but you call it you. So the thievery continues. Every time you catch it, and you catch it quite a lot, it's me, it's me, it's me. That's the bondage of self. Identification is what you're not. So here, being convinced that self, manifested in various ways, is what has defeated us, we will now look at its common manifestations, which means selves, and in the next paragraph it says resentment. Yeah? So if you follow it. We read the books. Resentment is a manifestation of self in one's life. It's not our manifestation. Why do we keep calling them my resentments if they're not issuing from me? They're coming from self. The anxiety isn't my anxiety. It's a manifestation in self in one's life that is used to defeat us. Yes, we're occupied by what's not happening when we are what's happening. Can you imagine that? We are what's happening. Tonight is not happening without us. We are what's happening. We're so preoccupied, we can override our influence in what's happening by what's not happening. That's insane to me. It's insane. It's unbelievable that our common ground is seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. It's been totally neutered. It seems to have no influence on us at all. The selfing keeps claiming to be the one who's conscious. Then you have a drive to become more conscious, which just reinforces the insane idea you could be less conscious. It just does the same thing. It replicates itself, that which comes after. So they're seeing, and then the mental state arises and says, the seeing implies there's a seer. Yeah? All right, suddenly the seeing gets forgotten. The seer now gets remembered. Every time they're seeing, it's remembered as the seer. Every time. You see tons of different things, but each one of them relate back to the same one thing. So you have thousands of seeings during the day, and all of them are being claimed to imply the one seer. Yeah? And not only that, so there's 5 different ways it gets tagged. And then it has the K-Paul radio station playing all day, which is constantly implying you have a lot to do with shit you have nothing to do with. So you got all this stuff being used to claim that you're the doer, the thinker, and then you got the freaking propaganda station. Yes? And everyone you bump into is listening to their own propaganda station. And then so for you to verify the truth of yours, you listen to theirs and you verify each other's. Oh yes, that's terrible what happened to you. Let me tell you what happened. It goes on and on and on. It's like a virus being infected constantly and reinfected and shared. Yeah? So being convinced that self manifests in various ways. I have never heard any people that I ever seen to a 4th step say these are not your resentments. They're resentments. They're not your resentments. That's the freedom from the bondage of self. Recognize the source of what's driving you crazy. And this happened to me. I don't know how many years I was. I saw the word self as a foreign installment, clearly. And immediately, suddenly, as soon as I saw it as other than me, the next possibility is I could be free from it. And then it told me I had been trying to be free as it since I've been 6 years old. All was needed was this one correction. That which I was identifying with as me wasn't me. And it opened up the possibility of stabilized peace, serenity, stabilized traveling lighter, stabilized a new attitude and new outlook without much fucking maintenance involved. A new freedom and a new happiness. A whole different package started to get downloaded. And all it was a simple recognition of that which I was taking myself to be foreign. As soon as I saw that, the possibility, because I've been trying to be free as self for a long time. I try to meditate myself into freedom. All I got was more of a meditator. Yeah? Because the thing is, the selfing is very fast, probably less than a few seconds. So whatever you come in contact with, it claims to be the one that's in contact. And I don't believe there's a process in this world that can outdraw that process. I don't. I believe all along while you're meditating, and there's nothing wrong with meditation, but it would be nice to be aware of the mental state is claiming the meditation to imply the meditator. That's what it's doing. Just like it, when I shot dope, it was shooting dope to imply the shooter of the dope. I believe that spirituality had like an electrified fence that would keep the selfing out. Forget it. It's completely infected the whole thing. I speak to a lot of spiritual groups. They're sick as hell. But no one's going to come up and say, you can't go to satsang anymore. Step out of here. You've had enough meetings. No. As addicts and alcoholics, we're lucky because we have interventions. People will put a stop to us. They won't put a stop to spiritual seeking. You'll fucking spend all your freaking money on 30 retreats. So in recovery, this is what changed the whole thing for me. And it's stabilized for now 20-something years. And that doesn't matter because it's stabilized now. That's what matters. And this very moment, the basis of my life has changed. And therefore, instead of having irritability, restlessness, and discontent as the normal operating procedure, it's in ease and comfort. And if you want to know how it all happens seemingly, it's this incredible quality called faith. Yeah? Not faith like Muslim or Hindu or Catholic or Christian. I'm not talking about a faith. I'm talking about a force of mind that's neutral, like energetically neutral, but it's going to get its polarity based on what it's put in. So I've seen it with a lot of us. Most alcoholics and addicts are devoted to the thoughts that are appearing, yeah? That devotion to the thoughts about yesterday, tomorrow, allow yesterday and tomorrow to destroy your today. It's all produced by faith. Yeah, and then people say, well, I don't have faith, but there's faith in that. There's faith before the idea that you don't have faith. That's faith. Yes? Faith is the force that's being generated through us, and you can tell by it's going to manifest in the vehicle it's put in. Many people have a lot of faith in the thought system, and now yesterday and tomorrow is more important than today. It's an incredible heist, it really is. And you're the thief and the policeman. You're it. Yeah? And I ran into all the little tricks. And the biggest trick is that one of trying to get out of self as self. Yeah? All the practices I seem to have done never led me to see that I was not that was doing the practices. Not one of them. Something hit me and revealed to me I'm not that. And then I saw everything. First, for me, everything just came to a screeching halt. Because I realized the pointlessness of looking for what I am from what I'm not. Completely realized it. It doesn't take much. It's incredibly insane to be spending any time looking for what can't be found. Yeah. And the thing is, for us, we're applying, what's happening with us is the application of knowing and studying and having an understanding of is being applied the wrong direction. We're trying to apply that to what we are from what we're not. Just apply it to what you're not. Study what you're not. You're experiencing it all day. Study what you're not, know what you're not, understand what you're not, and it will allow you to travel lighter here. Yeah? All the studying of what you are is all conceptual because you're using what you are to study what you are. That's the invitation. It was a terrible decision that I didn't make concerning my recovery career because I would think people would be really excited to hear this, but it hasn't been the case. Really, it hasn't. It just hasn't gone over well in a lot of ways. But what's well? My job is just to put the seed in there. I don't care how it grows because you've been served the spiritual subpoena. My job is done. I could tell the second this whole thing starts. I know what happens here because it's not going to you. It's already been delivered. Yeah? You watch out. Find out what happens. Everyone I know who's been seeing me a long time, they're all traveling lighter. They're not all enlightened because you're already awake. Yeah? They've lost interest in trying to become what they already are. And so they're like a normal, more normal than ever, but they're solid, yeah? They're chilled out. And they're available because they're present, yeah? They don't believe they're going to have to do shit to get present. They realize they don't have to get into the moment because they've never been out of a moment. Yeah, it's so much easier. So if you do the inventory and if you see the difference between resentment and my resentment, the my is the infection of the bondage of self. It's placed to be before everything it meets, but it actually comes after. Yes? The immunity is just in the seeing, not the seer and seen. It's in the seeing. Yeah? And I truly believe freedom from bondage is before any bondage. It's an inherent condition. It's always available at all times, right where you are. And it doesn't need the story of you allowing it or disallowing it. All that is still the smoke screen. You are what you've always been and always will be. And you've never been touched by any of the shenanigans going on. None, not one little bit, not one thing needs to be erased, nor one thing needs to be added. You're untouchable here in a lot of ways. Yeah, it's nice to show it and live it, you know. It's like a lot of people I meet, they want to have, you know, they're in a bad situation, seemingly in life, and they're not going to leave it until they're guaranteed a stare, you know. They're not going to step out, and to me, the whole spirit of recovery is to step out and there'll be a stare. That's been proven to me. Yeah, step out and there'll be a stare. So the selfing, and then a lot of, I have when I first went to talks, there was a lot of description of what I am and what we are. All we are is consciousness, all we are is this. But the problem I realized was what was hearing it, yeah, was what we're not. It was claiming to be the hero of it. That's why the first video we ever did was the sheep and the lion. A long, long time ago, because I saw a situation I don't believe is being emphasized enough. That selfing is so fast, it's going to claim to be the hero of this message. And in that, it's going to neuter the message. So the simple example is the message is, you're a lion, you're a lion, you're a lion, you're a lion. And you would think that would be pretty easy to hear if you're a lion. How much confusion could there be? If the message is you're a lion and it's directed towards a lion, you wouldn't need 800 pages or chanting or anything. I'm a lion. It would be a simple pointing out, you're a lion. And of course, if it went directly to the lion, it would be pretty chill. So obviously, there is something that's obscuring the message. I would say it's the lion, really. So the lion's taking itself to be the sheep. So when it hears the message, you're a lion, it can only be translated into sheep head, I can become like a lion. That's not the message. Yes? You're a lion. All right, I like that sound. You're a lion, you're a lion, you're a lion. Hits the sheep ear. I can become like a lion. No, that's not the message. So you keep coming back, because see, the sheep wants to get the message that it can become like a lion. Of course, what sheep wouldn't? It would give qualities to the lion. I'm an ass kicker. I'm not going to take any more shit. You know what I mean? Tired of getting my hair curled all freaking season. It would be, I want to be like a lion as a sheep. Yes? But this is the message. That's why we throw it so much. You're a lion. I mean, how hard? Why isn't that connecting? Why? Seriously. Look at it. Well, there must be an obscuring agent. Now, first you can say something else, some demonic thing, but it's us, really. It's the only thing that could fool a lion is a lion. You know what I mean? So the lion, or reality, is taking itself to be something else. And then the double whammy is it may actually start looking for reality from that thing it's taken to be itself as, yes? So it totally, the whole trip goes off, because every time you're searching for the lion, you're reinforcing the idea of being the sheep. Yes, you can't get out of it. It's like that Chinese little thumb torture. Neat little movement, just like AA. Follow the thing, the biggest unspoken, step of AA, I believe, is quit playing God, Because if you look at AA as a 12-step program, that it's linear, first would be more important than next, yes, wouldn't it? In a linear progression. So next in the book is the third step, which is the biggest principle of the 12 steps. But the first is you got to quit playing God. And it says why? Because it doesn't work. All right, but this is the dilemma. In the act of being identified as that which is playing God, if you hear the message, you got to quit playing God. If that which is playing God tries to quit playing God, isn't that playing God? There it is. That's the whole thing. There's not one point where it can quit playing God while playing God. It cannot happen. Yeah? It's like a little scratch on an album. Just every song has that little there's like an 8-minute ballad after it, but that little one changes everything. All your direction is off. Yeah? You see it? That which is playing God cannot quit playing God. Then how can you quit playing God? See that you're not that which is playing God. That's how you get out of it. You get out of it by realizing you're not in it. Yeah? You can't use the car to deliver yourself out of the car. You've got to get out of the car. And how you get out of the car is realizing you're not in the car. That's how it works, yeah? If you realize you cannot be out of a moment, there's not going to be any effort to get into the moment. Yet it will look like you got into the moment. People say, how do you do it? You look like you got in the moment. Well, how it seems to be happening is I've realized, completely being convinced I can't be out of a moment. That's how it works. And the logic is seamless in the same direction. Yeah? You don't get out of it. You cannot escape an imaginary place. Yeah? And every effort to escape it gives it a reality, because you're reality. You don't understand it? Like in AA it says, we manufacture our own misery. How are you going to get out of that? By trying not to manufacture your own misery, that would be manufacture your own misery. You see, you're not that which manufactures your own misery. It's not your own misery. It's the mental state manufacturing it. And you're the light, you're the production, you're the stage, you're everything. You provide all the characters. You've surrendered over to that. And it's using your juice to manufacture misery. It's using your factory to manufacture misery. And all the while, because we're identified as it, then you'll try to stop manufacturing misery. And then your head will be, are you manufacturing misery? All day. It'll be fucking just like peace. Oh, if you're feeling peaceful, will I be feeling peaceful tomorrow? There goes the peace. You can't take yourself out of the equation. Just realize you've never been in the equation. The only way out is realizing you've never been in. And you can feel it, see? All the time, the ticking of a seeking message is stopped in this room. There's no fucking time. You're not going to get there. And you never left there. That's the beauty of it. The AA condition, the addict condition, should be the most primed and ready, really. Because you must have seen that any life run on self-will is not going to be successful. You must have seen that there's a lot of manufacturing of misery on your little factory site. You must have seen it. Yeah? You've got to see, and you know that all the while when you're trying to get better from that, yeah, you're just putting on, instead of like a leather jacket, you're putting on like some robes, but it's the same bondage of self. You think, go to a temple, they're all fucked up. Go to a little Zen center, they're all politicking and trying to fornicate with each other. It's all fucked. There's no difference. There's no hallowed grounds. It's all everywhere, selfing and selfing, selfing. And if you try to hide it and contain it, it's going to turn into perversity. Watch. It's going to fucking act out in some strange way. You might as well just realize you're a fucking fraud now, so you don't have to feel like one thousands of times a day. Really. You've got to realize that every point of view is bogus, yet everyone's point of view is right. But point of views are bogus. We're all trying to see in the dark. Yeah. We're relying on books and maps that are supposed to lead us somewhere. They can only be sold in the dark if you just let the switch on. And in this case, the switch never goes off. Yeah. I'll tell you, the difference between money and my money is huge. Money, like I always say, I wish every one of you to have a lot of money, but I don't want you to have any of my money. The money changes everything that comes after it. That's the selfing's footprint in our life. That's the self's manifestations. It's the mind. It's that feeling when something happens, it happened to you or you were the doer of it. It's that vague sense of being the thinker when thoughts are noticed. It's that vague sense that you're the feeler of every freaking sensation that happens during the day. That vague sense is manufactured. It's manufactured and reinforced by the thought system all freaking day. Thought systems, the thoughts picture you as a body, the memories picture you as a body, and your perceptual apparatus sees things. If you're relying on those systems, you're going to take yourself to be a self. It's just that freaking simple. Yeah. So, and don't start with buts, all right, please. That's when the world starts. But I feel really great, but how will I feel Tuesday? It's like pledging allegiance to the dreaming. Time is of the dreaming. Yeah? Why would you want the future absence of a presence of a feeling now to be washed out by your fear of it being absent next week. You're a devotee to that system. You have faith in that system. You believe Tuesday's more important than now. That's insane. See it, check it, do your own diagnosis. You don't need to have doctors in this condition. You can see it in your own condition. Just take a look at it for 5 minutes. It's the same, it just replicates the same thing. The dilemma is, in a way, we're looking for a what we are from what we're not, and at the same moment, it can be totally different. You can be seeing what you're not, looking for what you are from what you are, and then you'll start freaking laughing. You will. It's hilarious. It's hilarious that you are looking for what you are as what you're not, and be seeing it from what you are. It's hilarious. It's the best joke in town. It really is. It's unbelievably refreshing. They get bitch slapped every few minutes, because it's unbelievable, really. It's like we have that thing in recovery, right? Fear, you have the acronym here, false evidence appearing real. It's a typical one. We have it in San Francisco. So false evidence appearing real. Sounds like the head, yeah? So false evidence appearing real. How does that happen? Or seemingly, and it's all seemingly, it appears to happen. It doesn't happen. Everything is seemingly, yeah? It's appearing to what's so to be so. Yeah? That's dreaming. So false evidence appears to be real. Yeah? It has to appear to be real to what's real. Where else would it get reality? False evidence appears real, needs us to appear real too. Because when it appears real to us, it's seemingly fucking real. Yes? You can have it an hour ago, it seemed real, and then an hour later it doesn't seem real. You can have relief or freaking bondage. But there's the identification that will say or claim it was the one that was there when it was bound, and it's the one that's there that's free. That's the real bondage. You know, if you've gone to these talks in non-duality, they talk about duality, basically, and that's what this really, there's only teachers of duality. There's no teachers of non-duality. And there are no non-duality meetings. Where would they be? And who would be attending them? Non-duality means not two, yes? So what is the duality? It's a way of seeing, yes? Yes, high, low, close, far. But it's rooted in dualism, which is the microscopic. Expresses outwardly. But here, there's the subject-objectness of this event. Sometimes you're thought about, and sometimes you're the thinker. Sometimes you're the object, you're the one that you're thought about, and sometimes you believe you're the subject of all the thinking every 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes it's flipping, it's like this. It's a constant agitation. Subject, object, object, on and on and on. And then the dreaming takes that expression, and it's called duality. But the duality brought back goes to the dualism, and that's where the not two is there. You're neither subject nor object. Yes? Beautiful. And then what happens? You'll find out what you are by realizing what you're not. You'll find out what you are by knowing what you're not. You'll be able to travel as what you're not with an understanding you're not that. It works even in time. You'll travel lighter as Paul when you see you're not Paul. When everyone else sees you at Paul, there's still a sense you're not that, and it allows Paul to travel lighter. What more do you freaking want? This demand is so low, like some people see me once every 8 years. They just call and leave a message on my voicemail. They never even come to meetings anymore. Some people say, Paul, I love you, I'm never seeing you again. The job was fucking done. That's my job, to become obsolete. I like the community, but this isn't about, you keep coming back. No, fuck that. Yeah? If it gets to a point where it's abusive, it's not serving you anymore. Look in your own laboratory. Yeah? Just with the understanding that the seeing occurs, and then there's the sense of being the seer. It's produced. You are here. You are the before. The before, something that comes after, seemingly replaces the before and makes the before a topic it can talk about or start seeking. You're never going to find the before as after, ever, ever. You see what you're not, and in seeing what you're not, you'll find out what you are. That's the only, to me, the only way to go.
The switcheroo. The switcheroo.
It's not even a switcheroo because nothing ever really happened to change this. It's all dreaming. If something seems to happen in the dreaming where something gets paused, it tells you it's always been this way. So did you arrive there? Even though there seems to be a story that you arrived there, but when you arrive at that there, it tells you it's always been here. Therefore, it just negated your whole freaking story of arriving. That's the beauty of it. Yeah? And if you have alcoholism and addiction, it's of the body and the brain. You need a way of life. Yeah? People try to use non-duality not to do the steps, and they're drunk non-dualists. Or Buddhists. Same fucking thing. They hear this message, oh, there is no self. I don't have to do any steps. Immediately, the head tries to take advantage of it. It doesn't work. If you want to use it, it won't fucking become a tool to you. If there's a drive to use it, it stumps that all the time. It will give you freaking nothing. That's the beauty of non-duality. Yeah, it's a fact. If it becomes a fact for you, it's an incredible working understanding here. It will allow you to travel lighter. Doesn't change all the geography of what's in store for you as an action figure, but you'll travel lighter through it. And what more do you want? Yeah? If you were content and satisfied, you would have no interest in enlightenment or that shit. You would fucking, nobody who's content, satisfied is going to sit 14 hours on its ass. They're not. And most of you go on these retreats, you never see the teacher. He's fucking, or she's smart enough not to spend the whole time in the day with you. He's having a latte in the back. So, yeah, that's it, I guess. No, let's ask some questions if you like. And remember, the head's looking for one consideration to exile itself or exempt itself. Just one. All it takes is one little consideration. It can add tons of miles and tons of fucking space. Yeah? No questions. Somebody has to have one.
I'll break the silence.
Please don't. Yeah.
And then I won't.
No, go ahead.
You're wanted back in Australia.
Broke the law there a few times.
Oh, well, a lot of Sailor Bob's folks want to see you back.
Yeah.
And I'm friends with a lot of them.
Yeah. I may be going there in March.
Okay,
but
good.
I don't know about Melbourne. I'll be going to
They
Byron
would
Bay.
be delighted to see you in Melbourne. So I've got a lot of friends. And I had the privilege or the benefit of seeing you a year ago. I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I there's a lot of things that you've said that have been very, very helpful. Life's easier. It's fun. It's fine. There's no problems. Sometimes I think about, well, okay, I got these friends though that are saying that I need to wake up or that I need to shut the fuck up. Wake the fuck up or shut the fuck up. But bottom line is there's a lot of chatter going on still, right? A lot.
Where?
Apparent chatter in the head, right?
In your
In the skull. A lot of chatter internally and externally, which implies that there's some self to hold on to the chatter, isn't it?
No,
Okay.
it's just chatter. Until it's claimed, and then it does just that. It implies that there's a self that's holding on to it. You see? You're a perfect example of the claiming of it. Yeah? There's chatter. The chatter is claimed to imply it's you chattering, and now you shouldn't be chattering, or you're chattering too much, or if I keep chattering, it's going to exile me from other possibilities, and suddenly it has a lot of power. It's just chattering.
And then as for this moment, there was something you said that helped me a lot as well, that all of our problems are based on some moment other than now. Okay? Like really, any time we have an upset, it's based on some past or future drama, right? It's not here now. It's always an invitation to return to now, what's here now. Okay?
No, but let me jump
No?
in though.
Okay.
So the upsets are being formulated. The idea of the one having the upset is that's the problem in a sense, yeah? The mental state is going to keep presenting its take. And its take is based on self. It's a self-centered system. So you can watch people. If they didn't do it, then someone else did it, and the other person, then God did it. They can't see how something happens without a doer of it. Yeah, that's the mental logic of self-centeredness. There's no way to just recognize a verb without it implying there must be a noun somewhere that did it. Yes, so the chattering. It was a perfect example. This chattering. Then the mental state notices it and says, oh, I'm the one who's chattering. And then immediately, as soon as it's you, then certain conditions and limitations apply. Well, there must be a lot of self going on if there's chattering. See, that's what it wants to trigger. It's a perfect autopsy right now. We just saw it. It's nice. The body just was laid. Yeah. I mean, how much more? It's just an illustration of what I've been saying. Don't take it, I could be totally wrong, but I don't care. I'll take the fall if I am. Really. I'll plead the fifth. But this is all that's been just shown, so that's the autopsy. You see? You can create tons of miles with chatter. Chatter will be like, oh, I can't get into the private club now because there's too much chatter going on. And fuck them who say that. They're fucked up too. We all are. So you're chattering, whatever. This is not a chariot of the gods. This is a utilitarian fucking Toyota. Yeah? You're not going to ride this to the supreme fucking domicile. It's going to be left outside. See, this is the ride. This is not on a ride. This is the ride. We're on the ride. This is it. We're sitting in the roller coaster. And part of the ride is, I want to get out of the ride, but as the ride. The roller coaster can't get out of the roller coaster, though it wants to terribly. This is the dilemma. It wants to pull and it wants to get off, but it's totally dependent on the roller coaster to be the ride. Yeah, so yeah, this is it. You see it. It's a quality we all have that's been untouched and unblemished. There may be a lot of obscuring, but it's not here. The seeing, there's not an obscuring before the seeing. It's after the seeing. Yeah? So therefore, the seeing can see the obscuring. Yeah? Now, the idea that it's you is after the seeing, so that can be easily obscured, because now you're trying to look for the seeing as what you're not, and then the obscuring agent seems to block you from the sunlight of the spirit. But it's because you're seemingly on this side. Here, the obscuring agent can't obscure. Yes? It's like here, there's clouds, there's the sun, there's you. You want to get some sun. If this is the case, the clouds have the ability to obscure the sun from you. But if you're on the sun side, you still see the clouds, but they have no ability to obscure the sun. That's the whole point of the message. I'm just saying, you're on the sun side. You can see the obscuring here. Yeah, okay, I've seen selfing. I've seen it. There is no self. There's a mental activity called the act of being identified as a self. Anytime attention and interest enters any of the mental processes, it's sort of like a striptease that is it's always the striptease. You'll notice that it's in the act of being identified as self. Memory, act of being identified as self. Thought, act of being identified as self. Perceptions, act of being identified as self. Reliance on those things. Hey, that which is says I must be this. Yeah? So now it seems to, only through time, it seems to forget what it is by being this. And then a double whammy, it may be led to trying to look for what it is from what it's not, which is really the double whammy. Yeah? That's like an exquisite fucking note of suffering. You know, you sufficiently, seemingly forgot what you are, and you're trying to look for it from what you're not. And you know, the greatest thing about a failed system, it can show you it's failed. So seeking has a great value because it will show you it's failed. You cannot find what's looking by using what's looking to find it. It's not happening. Is it happening now? If it ain't, it's never going to be happening now. Whatever now there is. Yeah? Yeah. I can't do it any better than that. I mean, I can't, try to part. To me, I like to, when I used to go to talks, like Buddhist talks, I liked when there was understanding given, where I could leave, not just with the feeling, but I had some meat. I understood something. They explained something to me that I had available, but I couldn't see, just like in AA. You go to circus speakers, a lot of them are entertaining, but there's no understanding being given. I like to learn something when I'm at a talk or something, because I'm going to not see that person probably, but I want to bring some with me, and like this happened in my early years in AA. I went to Texas to give a fourth step workshop, and there was this old guy got up, and he started going over the traditions, and he went over tradition 2, and I had read it a couple times, and he says, there's a loving God expressing itself through our group conscience. He emphasized that, and I got it. Wow, so there's this presence at the meetings that's expressing its love through our group conscious, which is the meaning. I hadn't had it at that moment, and then his saying it triggered it, and I've had it ever since. Yeah, for 29 years. And that's the flavor that when I read Tradition 2, that's the exact flavor that I got hit that night with, is the same feeling that gets engendered. Same one. What a beautiful bouquet. Wasn't there, he pointed it out, woot, my head like a dog, woot. Yeah. And it never left ever since. Yeah, hopefully something like this will happen here. So maybe you'll see that this is like, you ever see those things in a city? In New York, they used to have these guy playing with beans, and there's 3 cups, and he moves it around.
Oh, yeah.
See, we believe, and how it gets you, let's say us as this believes time is linear. We believe there, we call a past and a present moment that's inexorably going to the future. Yes? But the mental state doesn't see it that way. The mental state uses what comes after to imply it's before. So here's the before, here's that which is seeing, yes? And then there's the act of seeing, and then there's this idea, and once this idea captures our attention, like when you're going to be losing money when this happens, it goes, so you go look, we go look at this, but it's switched the before with the after. Yeah, it's a trip, eh? It's a trip.
Shell game.
So now we're looking for the before conceptually. The before is love or the void or emptiness. But you know, it's a thing to you. It's a thing because that's how the head works. The things. Void. What's the void? Is it a big void, a little void, large void, close void?
Square void.
Void is a void of all that, but void. You know? So suddenly now you're looking for these conceptual, mutated ideas of what your own nature is as a place you can arrive at. So you get left with, I know it, meaning as if you've been drenched by it. Knowing is nothing. Knowing is not, it is nothing compared to being. And this is the only possibility we have concerning this is being it. And we are right now. And it doesn't matter what you freaking think. You are it. The thinking comes after. Why would you allow that to dictate what comes before? If we could really like illustrate time, it would be great. Time is the ingredient of the magic trick. Yes? If you could tease it out and really see it, you would see how that which comes after is implied to be before. And it's all us, yeah? This is playing by a rule that nothing else plays by. This idea of linear real time. The head just moves everywhere. You know, things I buy now have nothing to do with now. 2 years from now, I bought them now for 2 years. Yeah, I got something. Why did I get this? And then there's a point where I got it. Yeah, there's so much movement going on. And when people believe they're moving towards spiritual awakening, really, if anything, they're regressing back to the condition they've always been. So they think I did all this stuff, but when it dawns on them, they go, man, it's always been this way. So all the moving towards a future goal is actually like a backing up into what's already so. Yeah? So I meet people and they're going, I really want to become awake. I said, well, you're awake. Yeah. And you've chosen to drive super fast straight ahead, and you're going to end up backing into it, really. It's just going to erase time by your using time. Yeah? But where you arrive at is where you've always been. So, yes, that's it, I guess. Any questions? Any more? Yes.
So, talk about the difference between thinking about awake and realization of awake. Because it's a big difference.
Thinking about awake. Well, I don't know about that one. We're inherently awake, so obviously thinking about awake would seemingly take our eye off the ball, calling it the same ball. But see, thinking is always about something. It's not like a smart bomb. You think about, and the only thing you can think about is things, like an idea or something like that. So I don't know what my head doesn't work that way, really. But because I believe we're all awake, and you can either be seemingly awake to that idea by realizing what you're not, or you can be seemingly asleep to that idea. It doesn't change the fact that you're awake, but you can seemingly act like you're not, or you can seemingly act like you are. And when you seemingly act like you are, and it is, that goes pretty well. Yeah? Because most of the shit we're making up has no reality whatsoever. Can you imagine if that quality of being able to make up shit was applied to some real shit? Right? Yeah? Do you know what I mean? Could you imagine if you started, you suddenly became seemingly awake to being awake? That's freaking power. There's some juice there. Yeah? To me, that's what really goes over the incredible currents we run into to get submerged by. It keeps your head above water. It allows you to travel lighter. Just like in AA, they have a guy named Johnny used to give it to me, Tebow, right? That guy. And he talked about surrender as an unconscious event. And if the surrender is sufficient, in other words, you have no fucking idea about it. If the surrender is sufficient enough strength, it will have enough momentum to break to keep you sober, let's say, the rest of your life, or to keep you on a stabilized, even keel or something, yeah? It'll have enough momentum to break through the barriers of the dreaming in time and space, yes? The effect will be able to extend in time, yeah? To me, this is what non-duality affords, because it's a fact. Most of the shit we're trying to extend in time isn't, but non-duality is a fact. It's true. There is no two. So when that's combined, right, it self-generates the momentum. It can keep going. It's sort of like to keep up there's a lot of work to keep up an illusory, or let's say when you lie. When you lie, you end up having to lie quite a lot more, right? You got to do a lot of work to keep extending it. But when something is true, it has its own extension. Yeah? Yeah. That's what, to me, all the things that we've imagined or put attention on, which was so much of it was coming and go, to put attention on that which is, has fucking some major oomph. Yeah? And so what you think you would never get out of, you will realize you were never in to begin with. Yeah, yeah. So an AA to me is like a path of illumination, but non-duality illuminates whatever path you're on. So to me, the idea of non-duality brought a lot of illumination to the life AA affords me, really. Without the correction of AA, my action figure veered too left or too right. It crashed into things. It needed to be corrected, and AA was that correction and continues to be. But now the mind can be free from all those consequential effects, because I'm not going to jail. I don't have urinalysis tests after I leave here. None of this is happening. My mind is pretty unfettered. It can entertain other possibilities, yeah, which is beautiful. And to me, what that sense of presence is undirected interest and attention. When the interest and attention isn't being sent to yesterday and tomorrow and all this stuff, it's just let to rest. That's presence. That's presence. Yeah. It's not being sent on fucking chores, mental chores, and fucking, slavery operations. It's just sort of rest. That's awakeness, yeah. Presence. So to me, presence is really undirected interest and attention. So your interest and attention is freed from that preoccupation of what you're not. And yes? Yeah. Yes.
So no desires?
Of course there's desires, but there's no one who has them. I have a desire for this to end, this meeting. I have a desire for an almond cheesecake. But is there anyone who has those desires? Thank God, no. The desires would mean so...
You're just watching the mind run its thing.
No, I'm not even watching it anymore. I've seen it. It doesn't even... I wouldn't give it that much credit. I'm not. It can do it. See, it's not burning down houses anymore. You know what I mean? I'm not killing people or anything. I'm just looking for a coffee or some pants or something. It's not. I don't need to watch it too much. Yeah, it's not up to much shit, really. It isn't. It really. It lost a lot of its spring. It sort of sprung. Yeah. And it's not being able to recoil as much. It can't get, it ran out of spring, so to speak. It was me that was constantly compressing it. Yeah. Now, yeah. I just show up. I really have no idea what's going on. Really, literally. I have no idea. If you stop me and go, how do you feel? I have no idea. Because I don't pay any attention to it much. I don't have a synopsis of how I feel. You know, it's not like every hour I'm getting my blood report. I don't care, you know, that much. Now, I don't know if it's my slacker nature to begin with, but it seems to be going well with it. Yeah. So people go, how do you feel, Paul? I have no idea. How do you feel about me, which is bad? I have no idea. Then I have to say something, because then I'll have a bad feeling. No. But it's like, I can't really say. But I would imagine, I mean, what you are states so much louder than what you say. You know what I mean? What you are speaks. There was an old thing from Science of Mind. I loved it when I was young. What you are speaks a lot louder than what you say, and I'm a believer in that. Yeah. So, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on really. I believe the whole thing is more of a loss of interest, and then the interest gets redirected and reconfigured. Yeah.
So there's not even a desire of thy will be done kind of thing. You're just in that.
No, I would say thy will is done.
Yeah.
It's an observation. Thy will be done is sort of like a hope. To me, thy will is done. I've observed that to be true.
Only thy will is
I
done.
see.
Yeah, you see? Yeah, yeah. How much do you need? How much demonstration do you need that something's afoot? That's much larger or whatever, clearer, whatever you want to say. I mean, I think it borders on the level of abuse, how much doubting Thomas action goes on. I mean, a lot of people have a miracle in an hour, they've forgotten it, but they remember a resentment of 40 years. You got to see there's a bias in place, yeah? So I try to point out to my friends, hey, you know, you want things to get well, when they demonstrate that they are, fucking honor it. So instead of going back to the same framing, that nothing's ever going to get well. Yeah, it's like pointless. Just see and demonstrate and honor it. Honor, hey, like that. In AA, I'm intimate with every one of their statements. Perhaps there's a better way, trusting something infinite rather than finite self. And then when that was happening, I honored the demonstrations of it. I honored when I was waiting to hear if I had AIDS, and I had a lot of evidence I should have AIDS. Intravenous drug use, a lot of freaking blood, new blood put in from accidents. But I walked through it for 3 weeks. It didn't flip me out. I fucking built a little, mobile temple there, and I honored something's doing for me what I can't do for myself. And then what did I do after that? Well, if something can do for me what I can't do for myself, I'm going to expand on what I can't do for myself. Make it bigger. I mean, why do you live with periods and fucking end of paragraphs? It opens up things, yeah? So, and then it says, why is it? It says, why are you in so much fear today? Page 67, I think. And thank God it doesn't let us answer. It would have been like a fucking volume of books. It says, isn't it because self-reliance has failed you? He's just giving you the he may not even known the diagnosis was being given through him. He probably didn't, Bill W. But something came through, and people after it can see it. All right. Why are you in so much fear today? Isn't it because self-reliance has failed you? So self-reliance is the cause of fear in one's life. So what happens? If you get relieved of self-reliance, what's going to happen? Anxiety is going to diminish. You're not going to be occupied by what's not happening. You'll be occupied in what's happening. Yeah? And you will see the results, and you'll know the tree by its fruits. A good tree cannot bring forth bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bring forth good fruit. You'll know the tree by its fruits. So I see, I've seen it work. Yeah. And I have the ability, this is one thing I realized after sobriety, and I didn't know it, but I have the ability to be convinced. I was convinced I am not managerial quality. I was convinced of a number of things that have never changed, never come up for review. It's not every 7 years, let's go back and go over. No, it's all moot point, and I'm telling you, it is like the problem never existed for me. That's a fucking great solution.
Yeah.
It really is. And I've been one of the lucky non-ones because ever since this hit me, I never had a strong feeling or thought about drinking or using. So it's not even much effort. It was more behavioral modification. I was not ever fighting the urge ever again since the day I got struck sober. I had to deal with all the, Paul as a, an activity. It needed a lot of freaking change, but the urge wasn't fight. There was no more fight. It was removed from me, which is unbelievable solution. I don't need any more demonstration than that in the story of an action figure. Something did to me that no human power could bring about. And it was my mother wanted it to change, the state wanted it to change. Nothing could change it, yet something changed it. Yeah. I've been convinced from that point, and I've never, I don't go through a dark night of the soul. I'm very clear that that's the way it is. For 30 years now, so. Non-duality is a whole different ball game. It's not a skillful means. It's not really for the action figure. It's just a negation of what we take to be so, with the hopes that we'll keep an open mind and see what we find out, And I found the way I found out, and then it reverse engineered, and the downloads were all about what I wasn't. That's all I've learned. I never learned about what I was ever since. All I learn about is what I'm not. Yeah? I'm being what I am, but I learn about what I'm not. I have an understanding about what I'm not. I know what I'm not. I experience what I'm not all day. Yeah? I just don't apply that to what I am. I don't want to learn about what I am. I don't want to know about what I am. I don't give a shit if you know about what you are. I don't want to experience about what I am, because it's impossible. We can only be what we are. And I humbly believe we're being it right now, except we don't think so. And you have faith in the thought system, and you're letting the thought system dictate its story. And it's fine, it's part of dreaming. So we're going to end anyway. We're all going to go to sleep tonight, and we'll forget it all. Won't we? Really? That's incredible. How could you be so important when you're off the game board like 1/3 of the time? I mean, really. Your preeminence in the game board doesn't seem, a lot of moves are made without you seemingly being even here. So I don't see how we could be taken as the center of the universe. All right, well, that's it. I have shirts and books over there. And, we'll pass a basket. I'm going to pass a basket. No one leave. Watch that door. I only have men's shirts, but some of the mediums may fit a women. And there's books, and the books are non-linear. They're just basically saying the same thing every sentence. And then we're somewhere tomorrow night. We're at a recovery center tomorrow night, right? Nexus?
Downtown, I think, yes.
Yeah.
Where is that? Downtown?
Culver City, I think. I don't know. Nexus Recovery. I think the people from Redondo Beach set it up too.
Yeah.
They're coming up. And we want to thank Steve. This is Steve's house. Joe's trying to get out early, but I just stopped him for a second.
See you, man.
So it looks like
See you,
tomorrow night
everybody.
is 6 o'clock.
It is 6 o'clock.
Tomorrow night.
It is, for sure. Hey, Joe, give me a ring, eh?
Yes,
Say
will
hello.
do.
Thanks.
Have a successful time. Have a good time.
See you, bro. Pass it. Yep. We need a bigger hat.
I was just thinking the same thing. So he needs a big
Better use the bathroom. Ah.